Shut up and sit down.
I think if you look back at the history of cannabis law reform, if there was one thing you could say that's pushed the needle on acceptance of cannabis in the United States and worldwide, it would have to be High Times magazine. Decades long, international influence, a constant string of qualified professionals coming through there, helping people grow better, know more, and to achieve greater things. Currently, the High Times cultivation editor is the guru of cool. It's Danny Danko, and he joins us today for the Digital Hash Bash broadcast. Welcome, Danny.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Well, Danny, what a great thing Hash Bash has been over the years. Not your first time here, right?
No, not at all. I've been to a handful of hash bashes in the past. It's amazing that it's the 49th hash bash. That's just incredible. Next year's the 50th. I hope we can all be out there on the Diag for that, pivotal moment because, Michigan and Ann Arbor have had this amazing history of cannabis law reform going back all those years. And it's truly an honor to celebrate that with you guys. And as always, it's Rory from Arborside Compassion that brings me out there. And so shout out to him and the whole Compassion crew. I think it's important in this time during this whole crisis that we free the prisoners, the marijuana, nonviolent prisoners that are locked up for cannabis right now, all throughout the United States and all over the world. Those people need to be freed immediately. And we also need to keep fighting for more home grow. Obviously, this, if we're going to be cooped up, at home, we need to be able to home grow. So we got to fight for that. And, I know everything is so partisan these days, but this isn't a partisan issue. The fact of the matter is, I know with you guys that I'm preaching to the converted, but part of my job and all of our jobs is to convert the unconverted, and that's the preachers and the teachers and the cops and the prison guards and people who need to understand that this isn't a partisan issue. Why do I say fight? Because we need the words as ammunition to fight the war, because they're fighting a war on us, and we need to use our words to teach them that cannabis can help the economy, cannabis can create jobs, reduce crime, which is counterintuitive to some people to understand, but I've been to the hash bashes and tons of other cannabis events, and there's never any violence at a cannabis event. You can reduce crime, and again, the police resources then go toward violent criminals, and so you're actually helping the police devote their resources to where there should be, with people that are committing criminal acts against other people. So that's important, and I think we can help the seniors and the veterans. So it's important to teach people, and especially because some of them are dealing with opioids, alcohol, and pharmaceutical issues, and they could actually add years to their life by adding cannabis and reducing those other things in their life. So it's important for us to teach people the truth about this healing flower. And if you don't want to smoke it because you don't want to compromise your immune system, you can take edibles, tinctures, topicals, vapes. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can
lubes.
Lubes. So the cannabinoids can get into your system. And so I just want to say it's
interesting. Rick would say that.
To write about the whole Michigan scene and to teach people about what goes on at the Cannabis Cups, at the Hash Bash, at the Monroe Fair. Now is the time of spring planting. We're cooped up inside, but if you have a garden, it's time to plant seeds, and whether that be cannabis or your fruits and your vegetables and your ornamentals or whatever else you want to grow, now's the time to get that stuff into the ground. It's also the time of morels. So if you're out there picking for mushrooms, find some morels. Just stay away from other people. And again, I can't wait to be back for the 50th Hash Bash next year. I love this digital aspect to it. I was in the other room. I know Short was in there too. So he said if you want to contact him with this link, he would be happy to jump back in. And he had some interesting things to say. So, and he's a tremendous, amazing breeder, also from Michigan. So basically, I just in closing, I want to tell people that like all things must pass, and this is going to pass. The flu of 1918 passed. It did its damage, but it went away. And so look forward to a brighter day. Plant the seeds now for harvest later. And thank you always to the people of Michigan for always being so welcoming and having such amazing laws. Keep pushing to make them better, expunge the records, free the prisoners, get us social use, and celebrate the cannabis flower. Also, I'm the host of the Free Weed podcast, and I'm relaunching the podcast later this month. So please, we've been doing that since 2011, the Free Weed from Danny Danko podcast, but we're relaunching it because I know there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in home grow, and I'm going to be teaching people. There's 103 episodes up there already, wherever it is that you get your podcasts from, Stitcher, iTunes, and everywhere else. But we're going to be adding more episodes starting this month. So please subscribe and check it out. It's a free way to learn about how to grow your own cannabis and get your own free weed.
Danny, even before the COVID crisis, cannabis cups seem to have disappeared from the national schedule. Does it look like that's an event series that we're going to see returning back to our forefront?
Yeah, I mean, I know they're trying to do some digital cup sort of thing in the near future, and they're working on something for 420 to do some kind of a digital smoke out session of some kind. But I don't really know. It's very hard to predict the future. You know, they've laid off some staff, myself included, for the time being. So I'm focusing on the podcast, and you know, I hope that I'll be back over there when the crisis is over. But in the meantime, I'm selling my books. I'm doing the podcast. I'm just trying to teach people to grow their own because it's all well and good to have dispensaries, and everyone should exist for sure. But people should have the right to grow their own. It's a fun activity. It's amazing for patients to do for themselves to create their own medicine, and it's the only way to truly know what went into your plants and what pesticides were used and what strains they are, and if it's what works for you and your particular needs. So I do think home grow is really important. I think even dispensaries, they used to sell clones at Arborside, but they told them they couldn't do it anymore. And I think it's really smart for dispensaries to sell grow equipment and clones and encourage their customers to grow their own as well, because it only benefits everybody in the end. So that's been my thing, for all these years. I visit a lot of big grows and I write them up in High Times. But what I truly promote is growing your own in a living soil. Uh, if you have the luxury of outdoors or a greenhouse, that's great. But if you can, for under $1,000, you can pick up a tent, 4x4 tent with the lighting system and everything you need to get started. And and within one harvest, you've paid for the tent, and after that, it's just free weed. That's why I call the show Free Weed, and that's why I think it should be free. It should be given away to friends and like any other herb that you grow in your garden.
Right on. Thanks a lot. I remember when you were in town, you certainly a lot of people were interested in your book.
I'm kind of doing the speech that I would have given if I was there at the DIAG,
Right.
Kind of ranting a little bit, but I had kind of a speech ready, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is just to keep the fight going, in the name of people like John Sinclair, who I'm just honored to have shared this day with digitally and virtually. It's people like that and the pioneers and the OGs that fought so hard to get us to where we are. So we just have to keep pushing to get to where we want to be, which is free the prisoners, expunge all the records, grow your own, no doctor's note or any kind of nonsense to have to go through to go and pick up our cannabis meds, and social use, places where we can get back together once this is all over and share our consumption of cannabis with each other, because there's nothing to be ashamed of, and there's nothing to be hidden about it. And I think that's becoming more and more apparent. And I think it's the way that we can push through and get to where we need to be, so that our kids and their kids don't have to go through the stuff that our forefathers and the elders and all the people did, like having their homes raided and their dogs shot and being thrown in jail and separated from their families and taken off of transplant lists and all these crazy things, this multitude of injustices of the war on some drugs. And so yeah, I think, in honor of everybody, we just keep that fight going for Jack Harrer and for Todd McArea and all the people along the way, Brownie Mary, Dennis Perone, and all of the people that came before us in this fight. I just think it's important to keep on pushing and get to the promised land of treating this flower like with the respect that it really deserves, which is as a healing medicine and something that belongs in our bodies. We have cannabinoid receptors that want to recept, so feed the receptors.
All right. Thanks, Danny. Really appreciate it, man. I'm glad that you were able to get on and be a part of this.
Yeah,
Much appreciated.
thanks. I appreciate it too. Again, check out the podcast. I got my book for beginner growers that's on Amazon and eBay and all those places. And just, like I said, the podcast is free to listen to. I got interviews in there with DJ Short and Subcool, rest in peace, and people from all throughout the cannabis world. And like I said, we're starting it back up. I'm very excited to be doing that as like a full-time gig, and virtually, of course, at first, but hopefully not in the future. So thank you for having me. Thank you, Michiganders. And I appreciate being invited to celebrate Hash Bash with you guys.
Absolutely. And Arborside would have had you here had we been under different circumstances. So we should recognize that.
I had the flights already booked. So I wish I could be there. And again, when I canceled, I got them back in credit. So hopefully the credit will get me there next year.
All right.
And it'll be the 50th one, and I can't wait. And I hope to see you all in person there, virtually if it has to be. But I hope for it to be in person, and we can really celebrate that 50th amazing, golden anniversary of such an amazing event.
The Jubilee. All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.